Hey you guys, I am back with another video. Today, I am going to be telling y'all a little story. Asked Instagram and they're like, okay, do that. And I was like, okay, I will. And if you're not following me on Instagram, you should go follow me on Instagram. This story time is called The Nurse from Hell. I told a couple people about this story. I'm gonna give you a little back review of how I came to have this certain nurse. So when I was in Houston, Texas, I was originally on the pediatric floor, but they had to move me to the regular floor when I turned 21 for a few days because they didn't have enough staff on the pediatric floor to look over me. So at this point in time, I still had a breathing tube down my throat, right? I was communicating through like trying to write stuff on my phone or pointing to things or whatnot. One night I got this one nurse. She seemed sweet at first, but soon I realized it seemed like she didn't know what she was doing. And at one point, my breathing tube, it felt like it wasn't working. So I'm like gasping for air. I press the call button and I call her and I'm pointing to it. And she's like, what? So I take out my phone and I write her, I'm like, it's not working. She looks at it, she's like, oh, it's working fine. The thing is showing that there's breathing, little rhythm. And I'm like, and she's like, nah, it's okay, it's okay. And I'm just like, My mom, she wasn't in the room at the time. She was in one of the rooms that they give the patient's family. I call her, but since I have a tube in, I can't talk, so I hang up. She comes up like a few minutes later and she's like, hey, what's wrong? And I write her, I'm like, my tube, it ain't working. And so she calls the nurse, she's like, she said her tube isn't working. Can you like fix that? I'm struggling. I'm like, I'm like, it's in me. I know something is wrong. Maybe about like a couple hours later, they realized that the one that they had, like the machine that was hooked up to my tube was faulty. I was like, okay, finally. And so my mom, she went back downstairs, went to sleep. And the next morning, I text my mom, like, she really didn't know what she was doing at all. The nurse, she was like, oh, I'll be back, not tomorrow, but the day after to see you, and I'm gonna be working with you. And I'm just like, great. Over the weekend, they took out my breathing tube, so I was like kind of talking. Like, the next day, I knew she was gonna be my night nurse. I told my mom, like, Mom, can you please stay with me? To the point of when I was crying, like, please. And she was like, okay, I'll stay with you. At this time, one of my doctors, they put me on a breathing, what's it called? An oxygen breathing thingy. And they had the level all the way up to like 40 something. So it was blowing like really pressurized air into my nose and it was super loud. They were like trying to try on different masks for me to see which one I liked. And one of the masks, it was like this, and it reminded me of a muzzle and of the breathing tube. So I start panicking and I'm like, no, I don't want it. So they took it off and Dr. Mejia was like, okay, we'll put that one back on. I'll come and visit you later on. I'm like, okay. The nurse, she was like, oh, Dr. Mejia, he's coming up here. Your oxygen levels were low, so you're gonna have to put that one mask back on that you don't like. And you're probably gonna have to go back on dialysis. And she said all of this with a smile on her face. So I'm like panicking and I started crying and I'm like, and finally when Dr. Mejia came into the room, I was scared. I was like, no. Tears strolling down my face. And he was like, what's wrong? I'm like, you're gonna put the mask back on me. And he's like, who told you that? And my mom was like, the nurse told her that you were coming up here to put the mask back on her and that she was gonna have to go back on dialysis. And he was like, I never said that. He's like, I would never do that to you. If you don't want it, you don't want it. And he's like, and for dialysis, you don't have to do that either. And so I'm like crying. I'm like, thank you. And he's like, I am so sorry. He was so sad that I felt so petrified of him. It's like, I'll check back on you later. Get some rest. The nurse comes back in. She's like, so no dialysis. And I'm just like, yeah, no dialysis. Get away from me. And this whole night, I was kind of like, I couldn't sleep. I was very antsy. I was like very anxious. I was having anxiety attacks. She kept trying to take my blood because I had like, what's it called? I had catheters in my leg area, like where your leg and your hip kind of like meet, where it folds. They had catheters right there. And so she was trying to take blood out of there. But before they could take the blood, they have to push saline and try to draw back blood. And this whole time, she wasn't really getting any drawback. She just keeps pushing me with saline. So much saline. And you could taste it. Ugh, it tastes so bad. And ugh. She like moved to my port. She got blood from there. And what I didn't know, she took all the same blood. She was supposed to take blood from me like 2-3 times in the night. She took all of those blood draws at once. And so I'm like panicking. I'm tired. My mom was like, when the morning nurse comes in, I'm gonna go to the other room and go to sleep, because this whole time I was panicking. I was crying, like to the point I was shaking, and like really bad. I was shaking super bad. My mom kept telling this nurse, she's like, give her something to calm her down. And she just kept giving me pain medicine. I'm like, I'm not in pain. Mom was getting fed up. She was like, this is in your means to do, so why aren't you doing it? Like, you see that my daughter is in distress, so I'm wondering why you're not doing this for her. And she's like, oh, I'll talk to the doctors, the blah, blah, blah. Moral of the story, she didn't even end up giving me any anxiety medication, so this whole time I'm having like a panic attack or whatever. So morning comes, like 6 in the morning. The nurses switch out. One of my favorite nurses, Carmen, she came. They usually open the windows so they could get my body back on like regular track, because I was asleep for so long when they had me under sedation. And I'm like, can I please just sleep, please? And she was like, okay, it's okay. I'm like, thank you. I try to fall asleep. Then this is where it gets. Dr. Rosby, she came in. She was looking at me. She's like, how's your morning? I'm like, I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all last night. And I told her like everything that happened. She looked back over my charts and she was like, what the heck? She's like, she botched your charts for like the last couple of nights that she was working. She was livid. Like, when I say livid, she was livid. They had to take blood withdrawals from every area of my body. They had to take cultures, which are like, if you look up blood cultures, just look it up. Some of them look like little wine bottles that you have to fill up. Dr. Rossi was in my room for hours just trying to get like my blood work on track. I had to do so much to try to fix the mistakes that the nurse made the previous night. Dr. Rossi wouldn't let me sleep. She was like, we still need to get you on track. I'm like, please just let me sleep. Gave me like a nap. But other than that, she wouldn't let me sleep. Went to my mom, and I guess she told her, she's like, you need to go and talk to like higher up people and tell them what happened. She's like, because that is unacceptable. And my mom, she went to the people, she was talking with them. They're like, oh, was it just because it was a difference between the pediatric floor and the regular? It's not it. She's like, this nurse, she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't complete things that were within her means. My daughter was panicking this whole time. It's like she just wasn't doing what she needed to do. And she's like, I don't want her being my daughter's nurse ever again. So that's what happened. She wasn't my nurse ever again. I never saw her after that. Dr. Rosby, she was trying to make me feel better, so she just ordered everything off of the menu. She ordered me ices, Sprites, ice cream, slushies. At this point, I couldn't really keep anything solid down, so she was just ordering me like a whole bunch of like liquid things. I swear that nurse, it was just like, it was so weird how she was, because the whole time while I was panicking, she had this smile on her face, like everything was fine. So I was just confusion, like so confusion. Who smiles when somebody's, it was just weird. It just felt like psychotic or something around those terms. That was my story about my nurse from hell and how she was never my nurse ever again after that. And like 2 days after that, they worked so hard to get me back onto the pediatric floor, because they're like, we want you back with us. We don't need this. I ended up back on the pediatric floor until I was discharged. I love everybody that helped me on the pediatric floor. I'm not gonna say everybody at the hospital, but everybody at the pediatric floor. Dr. Rosby, Dr. Mejia, Dr. Hayes Jordan, Dr. Gideon. I love Dr. Gideon because the whole time when I was like confused or whatever, he's the one who explained everything to me. Sat down, he took time out of his like rounds, and he was like, I'll be back for you. And he has this Australian accent. He's like, I'll be back for you. I can't even do it. And so he came and he just sat down with me and he just explained everything. And he's like, even if you don't want to talk to like your mom or one of the therapists that we have here or counselors that we have here, he's like, I'll come and I'll talk with you. I was like, he was definitely one of my favorite people there. And my nurse Sarah, Carmen, Kachi, I know I'm missing other people, but I can't remember their names right now. All the nurses on the floor, I love them all. I'm so thankful to everybody who aided in me getting better, and I cannot explain how much I'm grateful to them. But anyways, this was my story about my nurse from hell. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more from me, you can follow me on Instagram, on Snapchat. My Instagram and Snapchat handle will be in the description box below. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day and a wonderful summer. Okay, bye.